Hey, welcome back. So, fellow go outside and players, I know it's been a while since I've kind of given an update on my truck. Thought I'd kind of clue you in. I still get some comments on the headlights. I still do run those. Those are, I still really like them. Don't ever really have to use the high beams because the low beams are bright enough. But an update on what's going on with this and what I've been doing to it. So, let me see if I can get this turned around. Alright, so since my last video, I really haven't done too much, just trying to keep it tuned up. I had some issues with getting it smogged. It just wasn't wanting to hold an idle properly, so giving it the basic tune-up, running some seafoam through the intake there, that actually kind of helped with a lot of the valve clicking and helping that out, but in the process too, I also needed to change my PCV valve, which if you have a 3.0, those kind of can be a pain in the butt. I hear a lot of people say that the best way is to take the intake off. Maybe that's true, but you can get these little hose pliers at Harbor Freights for pretty inexpensive. They come in a set of 3, and this will actually let you reach down underneath there and pop the hose out. And I wrapped a whole bunch of electrical tape around the end, so that it was actually kind of staying closed, but it gave some give, and I was able to pop the PCV valve out with that. My grommet wasn't plasticized, so I was still able to use that, and I shoved it back down and got the hose back in with it with that. So if you have issues with the PCV valve, kind of really recommend picking up a pair of these at a Harbor Freight if you can. They're like 15 bucks for the set, and it saves you from having to take the intake off and doing all that, which I will probably have to be doing to change the valve covers gaskets here pretty soon anyways. This one, the driver's side does leak, so I just have to take the throttle body off on that. But my big issue with it now that I got it to pass smog after several months of driving without a tags here in California, but luckily nothing, I never got caught, so don't recommend that. Keep your truck up and running good. But now my latest thing that I have is the upper radiator hose. If I give it like a little bit of a squeeze, I can hear it kind of gasping for air, and then it just starts to drip out the bottom through the somewhere underneath. So I think where the gasket is in here going into the block, somewhere behind this the timing belt cover. So I'm gonna have to tear all of that apart, and that's no bueno. But I mean, I probably should do that anyways. It's got the mileage to do a timing belt, a water pump, all the pulleys, all that kind of fun stuff. I have been working on getting, sorry about that, my ball joints. I've replaced 3 of those. I still need to replace this driver's side ball joint. I went through 1A Auto, and even though that's pretty inexpensive to do, they're not the best fit. So even though it's a whole set for 100 bucks, I probably wouldn't recommend doing that. Other than that, it's kind of how I bought it still. It's been a really good truck. Really like the V6. The previous owners did put a set of headers on it. If you can kind of see a little bit right there, so it does have full length header, has the crossover delete already done on that, so really didn't need to mess with it too much. I just have to get it more drivable at this point, being that it is a 94. You're going to run into a couple issues with that. In the meantime, since that happened on like Friday afternoon, yeah, that's when it happened. We had just picked up another little pickup for my daughter, so trying to get that running. And this one is the 22 RE, kind of little putter. It's got a decent amount of power, a lot easier to work on now, so I've been doing a full tune-up on that, which, of course isn't much. It's just a few spark plugs, caps, wires, the rotor, but it did have an exhaust manifold leak coming from down inside of here, where the manifold meets the downpipe. Seems to be a common issue. The one store I normally go to only had 2 sets of the donut gaskets for that, and I can find those. They were completely shot, so So that was the issue. I got a new set, but that didn't want to seal it, and because of how old and rusted it is, the one bolt on this side started to strip. So I did find some washer to try to get it backspaced to some better threads, but still it doesn't want to seal right. It might be slightly warped. I might have to go with a whole new manifold, but I'm letting it dry. You can kind of see like little gray specks everywhere. Using some sealant to try to just get that sealed up, some exhaust sealant, you know, so high temperature rated, see if I can get that. I might not have gotten it back too good. Those really aren't that hard. If you do have one of these to get to, you'll just need to get a whole bunch of extensions together and then go from underneath the truck, and you will be able to get to those right there. So you can see, you can get to the one side here, and then the other two sides the other ones you have to kind of slip it in between the exhaust pipe and the bell housing. But you can get to those with a couple foot, like 2 feet of extension, and you can have all the room down here to ratchet it. So that's not too bad. If you do run into issue with the sealant like I did, this exhaust pipe doesn't come apart, and I'm not sure after all this age that I would want to. You know, it's got the cat kind of welded in place, so over 30 years, this is a 92, it's you know, it's had its share of other things done to it. What I should have done, I thought about afterwards, is if I had popped the rubber hangers, that one and the one way in the back, if I had popped that, that would have allowed it to rotate. And if I could have rotated it, my exhaust enough, then I would have had plenty of open space down here to kind of work on it if I could have rotated it out instead of just dropping it a little bit down. So we'll see how the seal is on that. I might still do that. I really don't want to have to try to take the exhaust manifold off because, again, everything is rusted. So we're talking about probably going to be breaking some of the studs, breaking stuff, getting it out, having to re-tap or helicoil threads. And that's, you know, if I can at least get it by doing that, because this hasn't been smogged in a couple years, so it does need to get smogged. So just kind of need to get it going through good enough. It also seems that I love the design on this. The PCV valve here does look like the grommet is slightly plasticizing, and then with all this crud around here, I probably would say that it might be building up some pressure. I don't know, you guys tell me what you think on that, if that's normal to get kind of oil residue, but I'm thinking that that might be one thing that's going to have to be addressed here pretty soon. Other than that, it seems good. I would fire it up for you and let you hear what it sounds like, but that stuff takes 24 hours to cure, and I just put it in yesterday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's what's going on with that. Other fun things to mention about my truck, if you have one of these Toyotas, and I don't know if it's just the 94 like I have, but it has this, the dash panel visor. It always had a crack over here. I went to go wipe it off to clean it off my dash and ended up snapping off the rest of that. So awesome, you know, mint, as the one video kind of said. The dome light, I did go the LED one, and in the video of the headlights I posted that I really liked that, but those LEDs, man, they just were not made to last. Cheap Chinese ones that just keep flickering. So I'm still on the hunt for a good one. Might just go and buy a more expensive one over at CarQuest or AutoZone, because they do come with like a 1-year warranty, and if it fails within a year, hey, take it back, say give me another one. So my daughter's truck, what we're looking at doing, probably wanting to change the gauge cluster at some point, because the heater core leaks, the previous owner said. So we're gonna have to tear apart the whole dash anyway. So while we're there, we're gonna add a clock, because the wiring should be back behind that. Maybe get new gauges here, because these don't light up. This is like an absolute base model. That, or there's a fuse or something somewhere that I can't find, if you know, because when I turn the lights on, those don't work. And also on this one, the headlights will come on, the high beams will come on when you pull it back, but when you push it forward, even though it has that little thing, the headlights just completely shut off at that point. So there's something kind of a little wonky in the wiring. Don't need to use high beams too much. And about high beams and headlights, let's get back to that. with my experience as far as this truck having the LEDs. I do really like them. I do live on the coast. Sometimes we do get some pretty thick fog, and I'll probably say that that's the only downside if you're thinking about getting these kind of headlights. If you live in a really foggy area, because there is no cutoff on it, you know, it'll send the pattern way up high. Even at low beams, it will kind of bounce back and come back at you. So it does get a little blinding when there's really thick fog. So not good for fog, but for, you know, the other 360 days out of the year where that's not an issue, I really like them. I've only gotten flashed a couple of times over the years. So that is what's going on. I don't know if you have any suggestions on what to do here. I'm going to take it into a guy I know that runs a shop, so we'll probably just have that professionally done. Also, when I did my seafoam, I started to get a crack in my intake there, but you know, hey, electrical tape, that works. That helps seal that up. Yeah, so thanks for kind of sticking around, always leaving the nice comments and asking me questions about it. This is you know, this is where this truck stands. Was a daily driver ever since I did that headlight video, because there's that excursion. That thing's well, it's just a giant turd, and that needs to just go away. It's been parked for almost a year now because water in the fuel, the turbos going out, just bad stuff. So Toyota's been way more reliable, but you know, after a couple 100,000 miles, things do kind of happen. Other little fun stuff that with this truck, I mean, it does have the manual, maybe you saw that inside, does have the manual locking hubs. It is 4-wheel drive. It's a pretty clean body. He just kind of get a little scuff when he used to take it off-roading. It's got some weird trailer attachment. I guess if you have to trailer this thing, you got the whip end to actually tow it, which is really random. Since he had it parked on his property, there's, yeah, a little bit of mice poop. Needs a little bit of vacuuming in here too. A little bit of the mice poop way back there. You know, so who knows if part of the headlight problem might have been from mice chewing up on it. But other than that, I mean, it's a super clean body. Comes with a camper shell. Have to repaint the rims that are just scrape off all the paint and get them polished back up. The camper shell rear bumper needs to get replaced because he used the tow, so it chipped it. Or just take it off, but the bars, the two bars would look good, the big pipe. Yeah, so pretty clean truck. Gotta say, the 22RE, a lot easier to work on than the 3VZE. 3VZE has a lot more power, a little bit more pickup, but there's, you know, it's a lot harder to work on as well. So kind of fun learning the ins and outs of both of these 90s Toyota trucks, and we'll see what happens. So I'll keep you posted, and if you have any questions, let me know. If you have any ideas or suggestions on what to do, let me know in the comment section down below. Maybe you see that, you're like, why does it say .5 only for clutch? Well, that's because with the headers, I guess the previous owner ran into a lot of issues with it overheating where the hydraulic fluid for the slave cylinder that runs down there, because of how close it was to the exhaust pipes, that it tended to ruin the hydraulic fluid. So they say .5, so it's made for heat, although .4 would have been good as opposed to the regular stuff. So whatever, that's what was in it, that's what I keep in it. I have had to replace the master cylinder and the slave cylinder down there. I didn't bleed the lines completely, so I never swapped it out. Didn't want to mix the different hydraulic fluids. So that's where that stands. Thanks for your support and for your continued watching. And again, if you have any comments, leave them down below. And I will see you later.